Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spanish Code Podcast. I am Christian Robinson, the owner of Link Spanish and Spanish Fit. With me as always, el novelista Nelfer Velilla de la Costa de Colombia, el profesor maravilloso. Listo, guys, today we have an awesome video. I know I say that all the time, but I'm not kidding. So before we tell you what it is, please like and subscribe to the channel, leave us comments below. Today we are going to hack the past tense of Spanish. And when I say we are going to hack it, I mean we are actually going to hack it. And why? Why have you never seen this before? Because we invented this. Nelfer invented this. I invented this. We worked together on this. It is our most popular class at Blink. It is by far the coolest thing we do. So you're going to want to watch this video and watch it again. And you're going to take a lot of notes and try to copy the screen behind us because it is full of an algorithm of practice that will help you master the past tense in Spanish. Okay, Nelfer, what are we going to see? Can you just break down what this actually is?
Yeah, basically, when you're learning Spanish, it's about learning so many rules, irregulars, and then we use this for this, for this. Here, we think that in order to reach a good level in Spanish, you don't need to learn all of those rules because you want to speak Spanish. You don't want to be teaching Spanish. So why am I going to waste your time teaching you? We use simple past for this, and imperfect past for this, and that. If you're never going to use it that way, like you're never going to put it in your brain in that way. The best way to understand how the past tense works is when we put them together and start trying to speak. And we have a cool chart to do so. We have been creating this because we think the language is a system. You can see it it's logic. We don't learn that by this is called this is called that. All of those strong concepts that my mom doesn't know and she speaks perfect Spanish, right? So if I go to my mom and say, you know what's a verb? She's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but she can say it perfectly in Spanish. Grammar is a shortcut to get there, but we have found a better shortcut. We have the hacking system, and now we're going to show you something that you're familiar with. You have seen this chart, right? You recognize it. We did it with the present tense. We did it with the present and past in order to speak and say more about past tense, present tense, and future, only with hacks. Remember what's hacking a language? Ooh, I don't know how to say I will. It doesn't mean that I can speak. If you don't know something, you find something simpler that you already have, and then you survive. I don't know how to express the future, but you know, voy a. I don't know how to say, this verb is irregular. Maybe I don't remember. And then you go I have a hack for the past tense. Whenever I don't remember, I did, I can say I was doing because you already have your ing words, right? So we're going to do the same now with the simple past and the imperfect past that we've been talking about.
All right, guys. So what this boils down to is everything you see up here going to allow us to simplify the language using the algorithms and conjugations of things like double verbs, yo quiero, yo quise, yo quería, to simplify the way that we can say anything. Because we can't just remember the entire language all at once, but if we can remember the most important verbs in every single structure, we can say almost anything we want. All right, let's unveil the hack.
Okay, in order to get there, we need to see again what's the simple past and what are the structures you can do with that. First, we have the conjugation, right? The pain in the ass conjugation that we always need to remember, depending on the person who's performing the action and when the action is being performed. And now we have the simple past. You already know this. Hablé, hablaste. Hablar is an AR verb, so I say hablé, tú hablaste, él habló, nosotros hablamos, ellos or ustedes hablaron, right? And for the ER verbs, comí, comiste, comió, comimos, comieron, right? So while you're learning that, most of the times what you need to say is you wanted to say something, to do something, you needed, you had to. That's why double verbs are really important. We're always talking about what we want or we wanted in the past. So in the simple past, we have quise, which is an irregular verb. You can go back to the podcast when we cover the irregular verbs for simple past. I think you have them already. You have your notes. I hope so. But let's see them. Quise, necesité, I needed. Tuve que, pude, preferí, I preferred, I needed, I had to, I could, and then you are allowed to use any AR, ER, or IR verb.
Right.
Here we have trabajar.
Yo quise trabajar. I wanted to work. Yo no quise trabajar. Yo necesité trabajar. No necesité trabajar. Right? All the way through the cycle. This allows you to say almost anything because that's what double verbs exist for. They simplify the entire language. All right. So yo comí, yo quise comer. Right? No quise comer.
Yeah. And then we have the structure with ser. To be plus adjective plus infinitive. In this case, it's always about the third person. It is in present tense. It was, which is fue. Fue. And then you give any characteristic, any adjective like fue importante, fue necesario, fue bueno, fue malo, fue posible, fue imposible. A lot of those words are the same in English, so it's not that hard to remember them. Remember fue and then put adjective. And your brain is always going to betray you. You're going to want to put something in between like fue importante para, fue importante de if you speak French. But we don't put anything, only 3 words. Fue importante trabajar. Fue difícil. It was hard to work. And then you can replace trabajar with any verb like fue bueno comer. It was nice to see you. Fue bueno verte, right? Then we go to ir plus a plus infinitive, which in present tense is voy a. But in past tense, I need to change the conjugation of the main verb, which in this case is ir. Fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fueron, and always with the a. Fui a. I went to, and it means that I actually did it. Like I went to work. It happened, right?
I went to Cali. I went to work. I went to eat with friends. I went to the gym. I went to exercise in the gym. Fui a, fui a, fui a. Super, super common.
Yeah. And then the last structure, as you can see here in between, we have only infinitive verbs. AR, ER, and IR. Trabajar, trabajar, trabajar. But in this case, it's going to change for the ando y endo word. So how would you say working? Yeah, that. Trabajando. And we're going to combine it with estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvieron, estuve trabajando. I was working. I said it before. This is a cool hack. Whenever I don't remember this, I don't know if the verb is irregular or whatever, you can hack it like, okay, I'm going to survive. Trust me, guys, I spoke like this in English like for a year and nobody ever told me, ooh, you're hacking your language. They don't know. They just want you to say something that makes sense instead of saying like, trabajo, I work yesterday. That doesn't sound good. But estuve trabajando is a cool hack. And now let's go and check pasado imperfecto, the imperfect tense. Because we can do exactly the same with the same verbs, right?
Okay, guys, so we have the simple past up there. Now we just want to fill in, before we implement the hack, we want to fill in the same boxes, but with the imperfect past, all right? So you guys remember this? We just went over it. Really weird sounds for the AR verbs. Bailar, I used to dance, yo, bailaba. Bailaba, bailabas, bailaba, bailábamos, bailaban.
So in this case, we have the conjugation. And remember, it's not that hard. This one, the simple past, you have a lot of irregular verbs. But in this case, only 3 of them. Ser, ir, and ver. We'll get there. But first, what's the difference between hablé, where you're going to use hablar, and hablaba? If I use it by itself, hablé, that's a sentence. I spoke. That's it. But if I say hablaba with no context, the other one is going to expect me to say more. It's like when I was talking. Mm-hmm. But if I say yo hablaba con mis amigos antes, it's like I used to speak, giving some context, right? So when you use this by itself, it's I did it once. And when you use this one, hablaba, jugaba, trabajaba, is gonna mean I used to. Only that. I used to do it, right? But when I use hablaba ayer, anoche, with a time marker, remember that it's gonna mean while I was talking, when I was talking, and the other one is like, what happened? So probably you're going to be using this, like, ayer hablaba con mis amigos, and something happened. You go back, you combine them. They work together all the time. Action versus context, right? And now let's go through the double verbs. Quería. In simple past, quise. The verb is querer, to want. I wanted and I wanted. If you put quería on the translator, it's going to say I wanted. If you put quise, I wanted. And then you're like, what the hell? What should I use then? Quería or quise? Let's see. Then we have necesitaba, tenía que, I had to, podía, no podía. I couldn't do it like for a long period. Prefería, I used to prefer, or I would prefer in the past, right? And then we use trabajar. We're only replacing the conjugation of the main verb. So what's the difference, right? This is Nelfer here talking about numbers. I like to put everything on numbers. Other teachers are going to say otherwise. But this is the way I like to think about Spanish. Almost all the time, what we're going to prefer using is quería. Let's put it a number.
Yeah, quise versus quería. Yeah. Okay, why quería? Now you have to think about what the verb actually means, to want. All right? Now it's possible that when Maria and I were in the movie, for one split second, I had just an overwhelming urge to kiss her. I could say, yo quise besar a Maria. Right? But that feeling to want is usually something that builds over time or doesn't have a definition of how long I've wanted it. All we know is that the idea to want something generally implies that it's been building over time. So in general, in my classes, I'll just say quería. You can totally forget quise if you want. Now, you might hear it once in a while, so it is important to understand the differences between the times. But by usage, we have a 90%er in quería and a 10% with quise.
Yeah.
Now, it's not the same with all of these, right? Because each of these verbs has kind of a unique ser. What does ser mean in English? Like a different being, right? So, for example, pude, right? If something gets in my way of doing something, that's pude because it was like an action that stopped me from being able to do it. I couldn't do it because Nelfer punched me in the face, right? No pude ir perdón, right? So pude is going to be kind of common, but so is podía. So this one isn't 90-10, right? Now, if I'm telling a story and like I couldn't go to Machu Picchu because I was poor, that's going to be podía. Why? Because A, it's a description of kind of a longer event and something that didn't happen repeatedly. Like I tried to go many times, but I was never able to do it. So no podía. No pude is because Nelfer hit me in the face and it just happened that one time. All right. But all these, you can think about it and logically kind of deduce what's going to be more common, right? No tuve or no tenía.
Yeah. And here's where you need to think like, why do we call it imperfect? It's called imperfect because it is not happening anymore. It happened in the past, but I stopped wanting, needing. Whenever you say I wanted to do something, I needed to do something, you know that you don't want that anymore. It's not a need anymore. You don't have to do it anymore. So that's why, since it's imperfect, it's more likely to use quería, necesitaba in español. So you can pick this one, and trust me, you're going to be 95% of the times correct.
Right, because even when there's that time when we might use the simple past, the imperfect can also sound correct. So this is the fallback. The imperfect is your fallback.
Okay. On the next column is where it gets fun. Why? Because here is like I said, you look on the translator and you're going to see the same meaning. But here and here and here, it's a little bit more different. Like we can see how imperfect and simple past are completely different sometimes. Because when I say it was important, fue importante trabajar, it was important to work, it already happened, and I'm talking about specific moment in the past. But when I say era, remember it's an irregular verb in imperfect, only 3, ser, ir, and ver. This one is era, eras, era, éramos, eran. But for the third person is era. It used to be. It is not, it was like fue. One moment. Era. For a long period in Colombia, it used to be dangerous to walk on the streets. Right? Because of Pablo Escobar and all that, right? So for that period, it used to be, right? Dangerous.
So I want you guys to write down this as a note because I've never said this before in a class. So you're witnessing genius happen in front of you. Anyway, fue difícil is my language of describing almost everything. How the university was, how my trip was, how her dress was. Era is the description of your history professor. All right. Your history professor talks about épocas, like generations, and how it was for those people. So this is a teaching tool as far as the description goes to talk about long periods of time. All right. You're going to use fue. All right. So here we're imperfect. Here we're in the simple past. Fue chévere verte. Right. And here you want to be really careful. Right. It's going to be very specific. If you want to teach your nephews and nieces about the early days or the holy wars or the crusades or whatever, you can use era.
Yeah. Periods, history, like how was it during the pandemic? Ooh, it used to be difficult to go. Era difícil, era necesario, era importante, era una mierda. It used to be shitty, right? Okay, so they are really different. This is when you see, okay, that's why they have two of them, because they have different uses for those. Then, ir a in simple past and imperfect. Probably you know this one. If you have been following us for a long period, you have seen this masterclass that we have taught about ir a. In present tense, voy a. In simple past, fui a. It happened. Fui a comer. I went to eat. And that happened. There's no doubt. But when I say iba, irregular one, iba, ibas, iba, íbamos, iban, I was going to with the A. Iba a. Fui a comer. I went to eat. That happened. Iba a comer. I need to say more if it happened or not, but
Correct.
Something interrupted me. Iba a trabajar. There's our example.
Fui a la tienda. I went to the store. Period. It's a closed event. If I say iba a la tienda, I'm saying I used to go to the store. I need to add some context. Maybe it was every day. Iba a la tienda todos los días. All right. If I went to exercise, fui a hacer ejercicio. If I used to go and exercise, yo iba a hacer ejercicio 3 veces cada semana. Okay, so I used to go and exercise 3 times a week. Now I'm big and out of shape, right? So it just adds a lot of context. If it's not I was going to and it didn't happen. So I was going to, but it didn't happen. Iba a trabajar, pero no pude, right? That's different. But if I want to use it as I used to do something, I need to add some context to make sure that that's clear. I used to go to study with my friends, right? It implies that it happened repeatedly. All right. So iba a estudiar con mis amigos.
And he just said something really important and really interesting. Let's check our example. Iba a trabajar, and he said, pero no pude. I was going to work, but I couldn't. This is really important because with this chart, you can realize how we play with both. We start here and we go where? Here, 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 here. Oh, I was going to work, but I couldn't. Pero no pude. There's an interruption there. I was going to work, but I was sick, pero estuve enfermo. I was going to work, but it was necessary to do something different before. Iba a trabajar, pero fue importante o fue necesario hacer algo. So whenever you start here, giving a context, providing a context, you go back to the simple. I wanted to do something, but something happened. Quería hacer algo, pero algo pasó. Whatever happened that interrupted me of wanting, of doing something that I wanted to do or needed to do. We're going to be playing with this. And this is why this chart is awesome, because you see it clearly and you start playing, you start telling yourself stories. Try to do it with your real life. Say something that happened to you and start playing with this, and you're going to start feeling it. Because learning Imperfect is not about learning so many rules. It's about starting to feel it, right? That's why we're explaining this way. And then we get to the estar plus ing. Before I reveal it, please stop the video if you want and remember, what's the conjugation of estar? Probably sometimes you're going to say like, oh, maybe it's irregular because estar is always irregular. Not in this case, right? Estar is an AR verb. We have it here, estaba. So we have estaba, estabas, estaba, estábamos. We were. Y estaban. Then we have, again, trabajando.
You get back from work. You live in your parents' basement. And your mom says, where were you? Christian, where were you? I say, Ma, estuve trabajando. That's generally how that entire conversation would go from beginning to end. Mom's yelling, and I say, estuve trabajando. It's perfect Spanish.
But if we want to get a cool example combining all of them, we start here. Let's say, estaba bailando. I was dancing, but I'm opening myself to tell more. Like I'm giving some context because the real story is behind that. I was dancing, and I'm going to go back to the simple past. Like, oh, Christian, let me tell you what happened last night. Estaba bailando y vi a una chica, and I saw a girl. This is the main information. This is the core of what I want to tell, but I need to provide some context. I cannot start only like, I saw a girl, because he's going to ask me, where were you? ¿Dónde estabas? Context, right? Estaba bailando y vi una chica. And then he's going to be, ¿qué pasó? And what happened? And I'm going to say what happened next. Oh, no pasó nada. Sadly, tristemente, nothing happened. But I was so excited. Estaba muy emocionado. So providing more context. So what we have here is, estuve trabajando. I can put a full stop there. That's the main information I want to provide. Estaba, like he said, is because I'm going to say more. I'm opening a context that is going to go back to here, to here, to here. Okay, like I was tired. Estaba cansado, but I had to work. Pero tuve que trabajar anyways. Estaba estudiando inglés en Estados Unidos y fue muy importante practicar. I was studying English in the United States, and it was really important to practice. Estaba viajando en México y fui a muchos lugares. I was traveling in Mexico context, and I went to a lot of places. It was really good. Fue muy bueno. Fue muy divertido, right? Or I can start here, like, anoche bebí mucho because, providing context now, I drank a lot last night.
Porque estaba muy triste.
Exactly, because I was sad. Any description, we go here. Any main action, things that happen, the time is passing, I use this. But they work really good and really well together. We use both to tell stories, to explain something that happened, to make the other one feel that we want to talk.
All right, guys. So how are we going to practice using this hack? Well, you need to choose verbs that you're practicing and you're learning, and you need to choose one verb and run through the entire cycle. And when you get caught and we don't want you just to go from box to box to box to box to box. Maybe at the beginning you can do that. But eventually you need to go from the simple past to the imperfect past, all right? Entonces, en 2020 yo viví en Medellín. In 2020 I lived in Medellín. Un día necesité mudarme. So one day I needed to move, right? It was important to explore a new place. Fue importante explorar un lugar nuevo. Entonces, fui a vivir en Bucaramanga. So I went to live in Bucaramanga.
Yeah, and then you can just go when you have this clear, like step by step, then you can start telling yourself a story, like the real story of your life, and go here and start feeling it, right? I think this is a good way to get there. Well, that example was really clear, and I think we should do it again. But now I'm going to put some time frame so you can feel when we use the simple past. Like if I start telling my story, like in 1999, I lived in Cartagena. En 1999 viví en Cartagena. Then, when I was 17, quise viajar a otra ciudad. Cuando tenía 17, I wanted to travel or to study in a different city. Quise estudiar en una ciudad diferente. It was important at that time to find a good university. Fue importante en ese momento encontrar una buena universidad. So I went to Bogotá. Entonces fui a Bogotá at that time, right? But I didn't like it. Pero no me gustó. Then I went to Medellín. Entonces fui a Medellín y fue genial, right? It was great for me. Estuve estudiando lingüística y literatura. I was studying literature. I was doing this. I did this, but I can use the estuve, right? Since I'm saying a specific time, then I can use this. You can set it this way. Whenever I'm going to speak about my biography, it's going to be like the time is passing. So I did this, I studied, I lived, I moved. It's going to be simple past. Then if we go to the imperfect, let's express a little bit more about what was happening at the time. Like, okay, I used to live in Cartagena. Just like a fun fact that I'm saying. Yo vivía en Cartagena when I was a kid. Cuando era un niño. Yo vivía en Cartagena cuando era un niño. I always wanted to live in a different city, right? Siempre quería vivir en una ciudad diferente. I couldn't thought about staying there for my entire life. No podía pensar en quedarme ahí toda mi vida, right? Because for that period, a long period, I couldn't thought about it. Like it was impossible for me to do it. Like for me, it used to be necessary to find new horizons, right? Para mí era necesario encontrar nuevos horizontes. Para mí era importante visitar nuevos lugares. It used to be important for me. Now that I did it, that's why it's imperfect, because it used to be for a long period and then I completed that action, right? So that's why it's interrupted. That's why it's imperfect. I was gonna go to Mexico at some point. Iba a ir a México en algún momento. And probably you're wondering, oh, what happened, right? Because I said I was going to go, but I haven't given any context. So you're expecting me to say, why didn't I go? Or if I actually went. Iba a viajar a México en algún momento, but I preferred to go to a different place. Pero preferí ir a Perú. Pero preferí ir a Argentina. Pero mejor I decided to go to a different place. So we go back to the simple past. And then in that moment, at that period, I was working, I was studying what I was doing when I was going to go to Mexico, but I decided to go to a different place. So as you can see, we're always playing with both. You need to tell yourself a story. And sometimes when I tell my students, like, you need to practice this way, they often say, I don't know what to say, but what do you know better than your life? So when you're practicing these tenses, try to tell yourself a story about what you were doing when you were a kid, when you were 17, when you were 20, and then you're going to find yourself using simple and imperfect tense, combining them. It's really important, right?
All right, guys. So you've seen a lot today. Replay it, write it down, practice it a lot. Leave us your comments below. Please remember to like and subscribe. You know that 80% of you guys are not subscribed to our channel, and we really, really, really would appreciate it, and it does help us out. Okay, another video coming very soon. Thank you guys. In the meantime, hasta pronto, muchachos y estudiantes. Ciao, ciao.
Nos vemos.